Hello guys, we are back now with a practical part of demonstrating the monitoring with Prometheus and Grafana. So I will try to put this in the most simple way as possible for you, and I will show you exactly as we go where you can pull additional information to test further and try some additional things. So what I have here, I have provisioned one VM inside the cloud, so you can use any type of VM for this purpose. So I have just a random Ubuntu 18.04 just for this little demonstration. So I'll close this. I will show you the GitHub official repository of Prometheus, and this is where you will try to find additional information about this. So namely, Prometheus has a couple of things here. As you can see, they have the node exporter. We will open this as well. The Prometheus itself, there's installation about graphite exporter, InfluxDB exporter. So these are just, HA proxy exporter, memcached. So these are stuff that you can use to configure Prometheus, alert manager, etc. So if you want to install anything from here, you will see that they suggest that you use Docker to run the precompiled image, etc. You can find this also from Docker Hub as well, but I will not show you this way right now because this is something that we will show later in the microservices lectures. So in short, Alert Manager will, be part of your alerting schedules and all these schemes that you want to provision. So we will skip this because I don't really want to install any Slack or I can't even show you how you can do this in Telegram or something that on a phone or your email. But I will show you how you can install this together with Prometheus. You can provision it from Grafana, etc. We'll get to this point, so don't worry about that. There is an InfluxDB exporter. You can also install this and try it how it works. I'll skip it for now, but yes, you can collect metrics in these terms as well. So there's that option, and it's also in the same place here as Prometheus in the same GitHub repository. And you have the Prometheus itself. This is a small graphics how Prometheus works actually, and how it retrieves data from the nodes. So in general, you have a couple of components here. So you have jobs first and exporters. These are the plugins or the applications that you're going to use to collect the metrics from the nodes. So the exporters are like, for example, node exporter. It will collect information like your CPU and relevant things from your node like that. CPU realization, HTTP traffic, network traffic, TCP connections, contract, things like that, whatever you configure it to do. So there's different types of exporters you can use, as we saw. So that's the way you're gonna take the information from inside out. That's the white box monitoring part. Then you're gonna have a Prometheus server running. So Prometheus is gonna be your core, let's call it like that. So the Prometheus server does the aggregation of that, and it can either store the information that's collected in a storage place, or it can proceed it further on to another type of database, etc. But the most important part is that information that's collected is processed using this PromQL query language from Prometheus. That's what it stands for, Prometheus query language, in order to show you to filter the exact things you want to represent on web user interface, such as Grafana, for example. This is a very common way of doing monitoring using Prometheus and Grafana. So the retrieval of information can be from anything. So you can monitor literally everything you want. You can monitor your DNS stuff or Kubernetes or, console service discovery. There's integration for a lot of things. So that's the great part. And then, as I showed you, you can install the alert manager and you can push alerts to emails and even your personal accounts, or maybe Facebook or stuff like that. I'm not really sure. There's a couple of options there. We'll check this later, but in general, you can do this any way you want. I've tried this with Slack. It works great. There's a great integration for Slack, so if you're using Slack, you can try it. It's very simple to set up. So yes, these tutorials will show you mostly how to just spin up the Prometheus using Docker, which is the best way, I think, because it doesn't really require much of an installation. You just need to configure it after that, and that's it. So I'm gonna skip that because we're not gonna do this with Docker now. We have a separate tutorial for that. Last but not least, this is the node exporter. It's like one of the exporters that you're gonna use to with Prometheus together. So there is an option to install all of this using Ansible. You can check that on the link if you want. It can correlate together with the example we gave with Ansible for Elasticstack. And yes, also from a couple of days ago, I think last week, Elasticsearch has an integration with Prometheus and Grafana. So I will show you also that later, how you can integrate Elasticsearch as an option for data analytics, etc. So yeah, this also gives you a tutorial how to install it using Docker, and we will get to that as well eventually. So I encourage you to visit the GitHub site from Prometheus. You can also check later the Grafana. We'll get to that once we install everything. Okay, so to begin with, what you would like to do, what you need to do is to have your VM ready. So I have everything here ready, so you just need to update and upgrade your software. Just don't forget that. Don't start installing anything before you update. So in fact, there's a couple of ways you can install Prometheus on a, let's say, bare metal server. This is a VM, it's an instance in the cloud, but let's consider it a bare metal server. You can use the apt package manager, because we are working with Ubuntu 18.04 here. In the newest version, you also have the newer versions of Prometheus. So if you say apt-cache search Prometheus, you will find the collect core. You can install literally Prometheus out of the box using apt. This is good because package managers are something that makes your life simpler, and it's easier to uninstall this just in case you want to clear out a node or something. There is another way. You can do this directly from the repository. I can show you that as well. Let's go to Prometheus, and what you need to do, you just need to download this. I'll just show you quickly. Let's say, actually no, let's not do it like this. Let's go to releases like this. You have a couple of different releases, so don't mess up, because you need to download the exact thing for your architecture. So in fact, what we're using, there's FreeBSD, so you have Dragonfly, Darwin. You just can install something like this, Linux for AMD 64. That's a very typical usage for most systems. There's support for ARM architectures, etc. So Windows as well. Prometheus works with Windows. I told you earlier I'm using this with Windows, and I'm monitoring my GPU using that. So yeah, there's other options you can do this, but yeah, it doesn't give me literally alerting. So Prometheus is awesome. You get a message if something goes wrong. So that's something I would like you to see. Okay, so this is the latest version, and let me just copy this link, AMD 64, copy link location, So you can go here and can just do wget. So it's gonna download a file, which is I think it's, yeah, it's compressed. Let's uncompress that. Yeah. So let's remove immediately the compressed one, and let's go to this folder. Let's see what it has. So you will see a couple of things here. There is a executable called Prometheus and prom tool. So this is what you're gonna need in order to instantiate your service. So it's not gonna be enough just to move this to your path. You're gonna have to create a service file for that. So I'm showing you this way because if something goes wrong with using package managers, you can always resort to this method, and this is something that's gonna work. So what you need to do is you need to move these executables to your path directory. Let's say like this, just an example. Prometheus and prom tool, we move to user local B. Okay, and now if you say prom tool, let me just make it clear, since it's in path, you can execute the commands automatically. Minus help. You already see that it's in the path, so, but that's not gonna be enough. If you want to kickstart the service, you're gonna have to use the service target file in systemd to create manually a service file, so it can be executed using systemctl. Before we get there, you're gonna have to do something else as well. So you're gonna have to create a directory. I'm not gonna do that. To etc and name it Prometheus. So in this directory, you're gonna move the files, the file called prometheus.yaml and these two directories. So these are your configurations. So if we go to the file, the YAML file, you will see an initial configuration of Prometheus. So you will see that Prometheus works on port 9090 on localhost. That's where you can access it actually without any dashboards or anything. It has its own graphic user interface. So in general, yeah, this is an initial configuration file which you can expand if you go to the Prometheus documentation. Just go to the docs of Prometheus, and you have a very comprehensive and detailed explanation here for everything. So if you just in fact need to find yourself, if you find yourself in a situation where you're in some sort of trouble and you can't proceed for whatever reason, this is the place you want to be. So here you have explanation about every single concept in Prometheus. So I'll close this, not to make everything more complicated, and I'll go back to the configuration file. You can do this way, but I'll just install this using the package managers. So I'll remove this directory. So if the package managers don't work for you for whatever reason, happens, some things like that happen, and in the experience I've had questions from different students that sometimes installation doesn't work. Just please, you can use this method and it's gonna work. So that's also explained within the GitHub repository. But also, if you know something about Docker, you can just spin up a container and you'll be good to go. So it doesn't matter, any method you prefer. Okay, so let's say I want to install Prometheus using the standard method, the package manager. Let's see what happens. So it will initiate an install. It's not gonna be the latest version as we would like, let's say, but in general, you never want to install latest versions of anything, because latest versions are not something that you want to use in production. So let's check here. Okay, yeah, I'll just there you go. You have like version and all these things. It's like Prometheus version. There it goes. So Prometheus depends on the Go language. If for some reason something doesn't work, then you're gonna have to install and update this, because this version of Ubuntu doesn't have this installed in advance. But I'm not sure you're gonna find yourself in a situation where you're gonna need to install Go language libraries or anything related to that separately. If that's the case, then yeah, you can just do that. So okay, let's see if something's running. There it goes. So Prometheus automatically installs Node Exporter, and the file itself that's gonna run in background like a service, so you can skip all that hassle of creating the service by yourself and process ID and all of this. If this method doesn't work, then you always have the manual way. So in general, that's it. And let's see if it listens somewhere. So you can see a couple of instances here. The node exporter is listening on localhost and the particular port that you can see here. Then you have the Prometheus. That's the standard port of Prometheus 1990. Right. This is the default configuration. If you want to check the configuration, Prometheus, it does the same thing as I mentioned before, that you need to create this directory and move this configuration file and these two directories there. So it's more or less the same thing. Not more or less, but more than less. There it goes. So yeah, this is exactly the initial configuration of Prometheus that you're gonna have here. So if you wanna have some additional let's say this is called scraping, so scraping configuration for particular nodes that's mentioned here, you can add additional jobs here. This is a YAML file, so we talked about YAMLs when we were working with Ansible. If there is a problem with that, just please come with questions. I can explain you some things about this, whatever you have and it's unclear. But in general, that's where you pass your configuration, so it's very standard. Okay, so next thing what you want to do is to install Grafana and add Prometheus into Grafana. So maybe later I can also install InfluxDB and show you how you can integrate this as a time series database. I mean, InfluxDB is not really necessary in this case, but if you want to stream data that goes towards third-party locations or from multiple locations, InfluxDB is great. You can create a couple of databases, connect them in Grafana, and pass the information there. So what we're gonna do now is, let me show you. Apt cache search. This is how you search the repositories. You see, we don't have Grafana in the apt cache. So if you do, nothing's gonna happen. But as you see, there is a snap with that name, so you don't have to add the repositories separately. You can do that. You can pass the repositories, but you can use the snap package manager. But let's go. Let's see what's on the Grafana's website. This is the documentation page of Grafana and exact place where you can learn a lot of different things for the dashboard itself and whatever you can do with it. There's a lot of things you can do with Grafana, and Grafana has become quite the player in this game. So Grafana is integrating very tightly with Prometheus, and something that became very, very popular in the last couple of years. So I would suggest that, for example, you take a look at these videos here, which is, offered in the beginning page of Grafana. So there is fundamentals of Grafana, it will show you exactly. You'll see again how it's provisioned with Docker, because that's the most popular way this is done. And in fact, it's one of the most popular monitoring frameworks for container environments and microservices. We'll get to that as well. So everything one by one. I'll show you all of this. We don't have to read it now, but this is where you're gonna refer if you have any unclear things, because this is getting updated pretty frequently, and you will find a lot of details here. How you can add metrics, etc. It's very well structured, so that the website is maintained perfectly. There's videos like plugins, how we can call plugins, instantiate plugins, etc. This is the place where everything becomes clear after you see all these things. I haven't personally seen the videos, but I'm pretty sure that they're here for a very good reason. Okay, so what do we do now? We can use the website here to install Grafana. So let's go to downloads, self-managed. Yes, another thing I wanted to mention is Grafana Loki. We can get there. This is the equivalent of Elasticsearch. So Loki is something like conjunction between Logstash and Elasticsearch. So let me open this. I think it's the best, so you can see. It's a very lightweight system. It's actually the expansion of Prometheus, because Prometheus focuses mostly on metrics collection and monitoring. But if you want to combine this with log aggregation and to create profiling that way in order to troubleshoot a specific problem, this is the exact thing you're gonna need. So this is something like Elasticsearch, but still a little bit different. It has a very comprehensive documentation. You can check this as well. So we went through the examples of Elastic Stack and how it works, but this is very, very nice, and it's also very simple to install. I'm not gonna do that. I just mention it here so you can check the log aggregation system, how it works with Prometheus. It's been presented on KubeCon. I've attended this 2018. I haven't seen it when it was presented there. You can't really see everything when you're on a conference or something, but I know it exists, so it's something that you can check, and I suggest that you do. So this is a nice thing. There's other stuff, as you can see. There's always gonna be more and more, so you can always get a lot of information from like one place like this, so you don't have to go very far. When a software is maintained, you don't have to worry whether you're gonna be able to use it or not. Okay, so let's go back to the downloads part. Let's go to download Grafana. So you have a couple of options here. As I said, you can use the Snap package manager. It will install all the necessary dependencies, but let's use the standard method. Let's install it like this. So let's copy the commands like this. So this will create this user, and then we're gonna download the package, and then you're gonna just because I'm running as root, I don't need sudo. You're just gonna install this. I mean, I don't even have to copy that command, but yeah. So yeah, you can do this. You can use Snap as it's said here. I'm not sure how this is gonna work. You can try, but I'm pretty sure that Snap is gonna install that, because Snap is a very nice package manager. It has very good stuff there. Right, so what does it say? Not creating home directory, user share Grafana, not starting on installation. Please execute the following statements to configure Grafana to start automatically using systemd. Okay, so that's something you need to do. You can do this. You can just copy this to create a service that's gonna... Right, you can start Grafana server. Yes, I mean standard procedures. So you can say systemctl status Grafana. Wrong name. Nope. Grafana.service not found. Grafana CLI, Grafana server. Okay. So it doesn't integrate it as a service. It's in a different namespace. Okay, let's see. What does it say? There it goes. It still runs. Let's see the network where it listens. There is the Grafana server. So it's on 3000. Okay. Prometheus is on 1990. And the node exporter is on 9100. Okay, so again, if you have problems installing this way, you're gonna have to use the manual approach, or you can use Docker if you know how. In general, just ask me a question if you have a problem installing this. Okay, so let's go to the Grafana dashboard. So if you say... I'm not sure I can access this on my public IP. I think I've redirected some ports there. Let me check. 57, I think it was. No, 27. And I go to 3000. Yeah, there it is. So the default password is admin, and it will ask you immediately to put a new password. So you can add some password by your choice. You can repeat that, and it's gonna be changed automatically. So there it is. And this is the initial page you're gonna get when you come to Grafana. So there's nothing here, but just take a look at this. You get a suggestion to check the complete tutorial here. It will get you back on that site which I showed you earlier. So this is something that you should do and check everything that you can here. It has very, very, very nice explanation. First thing you need to do is to add some data sources. It tells you exactly what you need to do. This is a new thing. It wasn't like that in the past, but they have implemented this recently. And you need to create a dashboard. So the good part about Grafana is that there's loads of dashboards you can use, like templates. You don't have to make this yourself. Of course you can do that, but there are dashboards. You just have to download them, and they're free. You don't have to pay anything about that. So you can get up and running very, very fast using Grafana and Prometheus. If you press here, you can check how you can create users, and this is very useful because in reality you're gonna have to make a couple of different users that work in different teams: marketing, engineering, testers, etc. And how to use plugins. And this is also very, very good thing because Grafana has lots of plugins that you can use. And this is a new thing, I told you. So you can use it as a data source. For example, the previous use case we had with Ansible and the Elastic Stack, you can use Grafana to pull information from the Elastic Stack and represent it in a dashboard. You don't have to use Kibana, you can use Grafana. That's awesome, right? You can put everything in one space. There's, graphs. You can use Graphite. Graphite is something similar like Prometheus, but much simpler. You can use InfluxDB, as I mentioned. This is a very standard non-relational database for streaming, real-time data. You can use MySQL metrics, etc., node graphs. There's a lot of things, and here's Prometheus as well. So yes, this is very nice because Grafana gives you pretty much a nice visual representation of everything here. But for the matter of fact, let's start with adding a couple of things. If you click on configuration, I'm not sure I'm gonna add anything except the data source, which you can add also from a different place. Here, you can just click directly here, or doesn't matter. So in data sources, you are gonna want to add, let's say, Prometheus data source. So this is the standard listening port of Prometheus. So you're gonna say HTTP host 9000. Okay. So we haven't provisioned any username there, anything, but Prometheus supports a lot of things. So here you can say HTTP method get, because you're, requesting information for Prometheus to be put on the dashboard, right? That's one way to understand this. And you can define a lot of things here. For example, see certificates. You can use CA certs. You can use TLS authentication. You can use even two-factor authentication using OAuth identity federation of some sort. So there's a lot of ways you can authenticate to the Prometheus endpoint. What we need to do is we can install now InfluxDB and the InfluxDB client. We'll get back to this, so don't worry about that. apt install InfluxDB, simple as that. InfluxDB client. So this will install the database. I said you don't have to do this, but I want to show all of this as much as I can in one video so you can see how you can do it. So what does this do is creates the InfluxDB database. It installs the database engine, but it doesn't have any database inside, so it's like everything's empty. So I'll show you what you can do here. You can say influx like this, and you're inside the database. So first thing you can do is to, let's say, I think we can install some sort of database. I mean, you can create a database, and but we're not gonna do that for now. Let's exit this. That's the way you can manipulate the database using the client. It's very similar to MySQL. Also, the syntax is quite similar, but it's simpler. It doesn't have so much hassle to go through, as it's a non-relational database. It's intended for this kind of use case. All right, so if that's running, let's go to the configuration InfluxDB, and you'll see a configuration file called influxdb.conf. It's the only thing there. So here you can configure the directory where the data wants to be stored. So this is, temporary storage of the stuff that's gonna be streamed. Then you have, coordinator. You're gonna have also the retention period and all of this. I will show you some of these configurations you can pass here. The administrator, HTTP, etc. There is also, I think, let me check, collect D service, exactly. So you can use this configuration part to configure collect D, to collect information and stream it directly to the database. So this is good that, it can be used in some interesting cases. It's a very popular way to use this with Prometheus in Kubernetes clusters. I will also show you that in the further lectures. Okay, so let's actually try to configure Prometheus to use a couple of things. Okay, let's get away from here. etc Prometheus, prometheus.yaml. Let me see what we have here. Job node, localhost, scheme default HTTP. Okay, right, everything looks good so far. Okay, so if we go to the, let's just restart the service once. Service Prometheus restart. If we go to the URL, which is 9100, I'm not sure I can access this from outside, but let's try. If not, we're just gonna create a tunnel to the local host, so it shouldn't be a problem. Okay, let's create a tunnel. SSH -i IDRSA, your private key, and you're gonna pass -l localhost, oops, 9100, localhost 9100, -f -n, you want to add 38, 39, 121, 27. So we created a tunnel, and then we can go back here and we can execute in the browser localhost 9100, and there is your node exporter and the metrics that are collected by node exporter. So it's literally, you know, real-time data streaming constantly, and it's a mess like this. You won't be able to know what's going on. So if you want to, you know, structure this, you're gonna have to put it through Prometheus. That's the whole point about the thing. Okay. So 9090. Let's try actually what it's gonna say if we go to the Prometheus dashboard, where you can execute the queries there, you know. Okay, so we created another tunnel there. So if we say here 9090, that's the Prometheus. So here you can execute the queries that you want. Memory states, HTTP requests, connection track, listener, node CPU. Let's say it's gonna tell you the status of the CPU usage, you know, in time. So yeah, this is the, I mean, we have installed Prometheus on one single node, so this is just a, you know, very simple example of the whole thing. So if you go graph, it's gonna plot you the graph of the CPU usage on the VM we have. Okay, so that's you know, the very simple graphic user interface you're gonna have with Prometheus. So I'm not sure you're gonna use this, but in general, this is where actually Grafana is gonna get the stuff. It's gonna take all the things from. Okay, so I'm gonna close this and not complicate too much. And the next is, I think we're gonna have to check the InfluxDB database first before we go further. The InfluxDB should listen on a specific IP address. We saw this in the, let's get back here. You see InfluxDB db.conf. It's let's see, address, bind address 8086. Okay, so this is for HTTP services. Bind address okay, so this is a bind address for your OpenTSDB, but we need actually for collect the, okay, let's get back to that. There it goes. So we need to change a couple of things here. That's the port it's gonna listen to. So we're gonna uncomment this. Just like that. And yeah, I will remove some of these things here. Just make sure everything's user share collected types DB. I think it should be fine. No, batch pending, batch timeout. There's a couple of different things you can pass here as a argument. Looks fine so far. I'm not sure we need to do anything else here, except we can download the types DB from collectd, and this is something that's I have the link saved somewhere, but no worries about that. Let's actually do that instantaneously. I'll just save this. We will restart the service in a second. So I'll just get the types DB. So this is like you know, metrics for stations, and to put this inside the database, and we're gonna have to create the database as well. So this is what we need to get. So if you see, we have this types.db. If you open this, you'll see that there's a couple of things there that can be collected, like CPU affinity values, gauges, etc. So you get the point. So these are all the types that the database can process. Okay, what I need to do is I need to pass this that we want to say, like stations value gauge to types.db. I got this saved, so we can have metrics for stations, and we can move this to user local share collect the types.db. So this is the location that we have specified in our InfluxDB configuration file. And after that we can restart no such file or directory. What? Okay. Types.db user local share collect d, right? Okay, so we need to create that directory first. User local share collect d, okay. And then we're gonna move the database there. Types.db user local share collect d, okay. So if we checked this directory, let's just see if everything's okay. It should be there. Okay, so this is what we specified in the configuration file, and we can service InfluxDB restart. That should be fine. Let's get to the database and say create database collect d. You can put passwords and users here, etc. I'm not gonna do that, just to make this shorter. Okay, exit, that should be fine. Now if we go here, let me just show you quickly. Data sources, you can add additional data source like InfluxDB, and you can say HTTP localhost, that's the default port. Localhost, oops, let's just 8086. Server default access, that's fine. You can say basic authentication, no user, no password, if you have user or password. But yeah, this is just the example. You're not gonna do this in production, far from that. You're gonna secure everything. So database, you're gonna say collect d. Usually for a database you're gonna have user and password. You're not gonna use just random things like this. So HTTP method also get, you're not gonna use post, and let's try this. Okay, data source is working, so you're connected to the database. In fact, yes, that's working. Let's get back again to the data sources. Let's get back to the Prometheus. Yeah, you should get the thing up and running, and that should do the trick. So yeah, yeah, in the dashboards, if you go back where we had the stats, there's still no data, but you give it some time, it will get populated. So this is more or less self-monitoring, and yeah, so this is how you do the installation of the Prometheus with Grafana and everything. So now we're gonna go here, create, and you can say import. You can find some dashboards from Grafana actually. Let me think about it. There is a dashboard, I think it was called 60, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, this is for the node exporter. Select a Prometheus data source and you're gonna import this. UUID doesn't have to be like that, general folder. So when you import this, it's gonna create you a random dashboard with, you know, just the most important stuff. So this is like a typical dashboard. It's based on the queries that you put for Prometheus. So this is something that you can find, let's say, in each window. For example, here, it doesn't collect any data because it's not configured for this system. You're not getting any data because the instance doesn't provide you this specific query. But let's check it. I'll show you later, just in a second. If you go to edit, you will see how the query looks like. So this is, for example, the metrics that you want to look for, and you can put a couple of different queries. So you can say that you want the sum. So this is a statistic of the entire full usage of the CPU from the instance. So it's like node per CPU seconds total. So you're collecting CPU utilization per each second. And this is system mode, user mode, you have, you know, IRQ mode, etc. So this is how you define some filters within the actual query. And this is just an example. So let's go back. You see there's lots of options you can adjust here, so it's endless. Let's go back, and I mean, this dashboard that you pull from the Grafana official repositories, it has a lot of options. For example, if you go to systemd, let's say, you can see if there is some information stored or the system processes. This is processing in the last, let's say, 5 minutes. So let's refresh something quicker. You will see how many processes waiting, runnable state, waiting for IO to complete, etc. Useful information like this. Processes virtual memory size, how many processes using this. So not everything has a functional query. So this is something that I want you to check and do for the homework. So there's example for the network, let's say, network traffic. You see, there is nothing here except ARP entries. So why is it that the ARP entries work and not the rest of the dashboard? So this is about the Prometheus queries, but I will not tell you what. You're gonna find this for homework and make it work. Right, so this same applies for the gauges here. You see, you're not getting anything. These are basic metrics for CPU utilization and disk, memory, and network. So for homework, you will find out why each of these don't represent any data here. So if you go to edit, it has to do something with the query here, okay? All right. So that's most of it. Another thing I would like to mention is that you can monitor the node exporter. Yes, that's something additional. Netstat. This is the netstat process. How much the processes use which protocol, etc. TCP, UDP, you know, things like this. Errors. If it's other than 0, you're gonna have an error, etc., etc. So you can, you know, establish some sort of alert based on this. So talking of alerts, you're configuring alerts here in the small bell icon. So if you go to alerting, let's save the dashboard, whatever. So when you return back to the dashboard, you can have the same state as you left it last time. So what do you do here? This is a great link they offer. If you click it, it will lead you to, it will open a simple tab like this. So in the dashboard, you can click on one of the panels, and you can configure alerts there for that particular panel. But to set up notifications, first you need to add a channel. So there is a link to learn more about this. But in fact, you just need to select which type of notification you want. You want Discord notification, or you want Kafka REST proxy, or you have Microsoft Teams, you have the alert manager, and you have, you know, Sensu. It integrates tightly with Sensu. You have Telegram message, webhooks, etc. So this is quite convenient. So you can just add the server, the message content. Oh, we have an error in this ID about this, etc. You can include image for the error, and yeah, you'll get a message in Discord if something goes wrong. So these rules, you can get alerting if something's not okay, and there's different types that you can do according to the dashboard that you want to alert for. So let's go to the dashboards. We go back to the node exporter. Okay, so that's most of it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And you can try some of these things I mentioned before. There's nothing too complicated about Grafana. Everything is very straightforward. So this will be, some of these things will be part of your project too. So make sure that you have some hands-on experience with Prometheus and Grafana, so it can come in handy when we learn about Kubernetes and the microservices stuff. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.